It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Foosball Radio and inside Foos TV, it's the 44th episode of FoosTalk Live, brought to you in part by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items, t-shirts, jackets, hoodies, and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com today. Brought to you in part by Foosballers, the movie. Download your copy of this Joe Hesslinger documentary at foosballersthemovie.com. FoosTalk Live also brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the country. Visit foosballclubsusa.com and make a donation today. And brought to you by the United States Table Soccer Organization, the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member and register at usafoosball.com. Well, hey there, it's Tom Robinson. We are FoosTalk Live, and this is episode number 44. And we're ready to spend another Sunday evening talking about the beautiful game, which is foosball, by the way. Conversation, of course, is always more interesting when you have someone to talk to. And that, of course, includes from the great state of Colorado, high in the mountains. Let's welcome my co-host and best buddy, foosball play-by-play announcer. He's the best in the business. He's Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom Robinson. Number 44, 44th episode. The number of Hank Aaron, the great baseball player who passed away a few weeks ago, yeah. And then also, Tom, 44 years ago this year, a couple of guys named Todd Lafredo and Gil Jackson shocked the world when they won the 1977 World Championship. That's 44 years ago, and here's Lafredo still going strong.
No kidding. That's astounding. I had no idea that it was 1977, correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Todd Lafredo, Gil Jackson, and John Travolta. That's what you kind of think about when you go back there. Saturday Night Fever, and it was certainly Saturday and Sunday Night Fever for those guys.
Well, I was class of 77 in high school. How about you? I think you were class of 77 also, weren't you?
I might be a year off from there or so, in one direction or the other. But and that was certainly our time, really, as teenagers. And that's actually 1977, also the first year I ever attended a major event.
I wonder in 1977, where exactly was Mark Torres at that time? Let's find out. Mark, where were you in 1977, 44 years ago?
Ebony and ivory.
No.
Live
1982.
together in perfect harmony. You know my favorite thing when I went to karaoke bars, you guys? It was singing duets by myself. It was like, you know what? I'm going to pick a duet and I'm going to sing both parts. In 77, you guys, I was 44. I was 4, and I was going through puberty and learning how to drive.
4 years old. Wow. All at once.
I was doing. Hey, a little bit ahead.
And kicking butt in foosball, I'm sure.
And just rocking people, man. I let Todd and Gil win that because I had to change my diaper by myself.
You were 4, yes. Well done. And
why wasn't I potty trained? I was 4. What happened there? Whatever. What?
That was my next question. Like, wait. 4 years old, still not okay. Well,
wait to read the autobiography.
We all develop our own.
And why does it not surprise me that you want to sing duets by yourself? In this case, that was, of course, I believe Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder who did that.
That was both parts at the same time, dude.
1983. That song.
Whatever, man.
Am I the only one who caught that Mark's saying he went through puberty and potty training at the same time?
So,
and nobody bats an eye at that. That's just normal Mark Torres for the course.
I was learning how to drive. Why did that miss the whole mystery here?
And passing up on the world championship of foosball. All right.
Clay Toomey, keeping it honest.
Fake stats in there, Clay Toomey. In fact, 6 or 8 of them for sure. But speaking of Paul McCartney, Ebony and Ivory, I love that. Paul McCartney, of course, the Beatles, the British invasion of 1964. And that's a little bit of our theme tonight, is we're going to be talking with a British player and kind of focusing on the international foosball scene.
We're going across the pond. There's no doubt about it. I can't wait, actually. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And Rhys Roberts, if you know Rhys, I'm sure you might have seen him if you've been listening to FoosTalk Live on the guest list. He's listens every week at what is it, like 2:30 in the morning. In London, England. So he's going to stay awake for us tonight.
Psycho fan, little creepy, but I like it.
It's dedication.
Probably stares at a picture of me while he's watching the show. Does something for me. Kind of hot, actually. Kind of hot.
Oh my God.
It's definitely a compliment to, I think, Mark and I and you, Tom, and Clay, and the job we're doing, that it encourages people to stay up all hours of the night listening to us. In fact, we're going to use that in our future marketing strategy. People stay up all night to listen to this podcast. The number one foosball podcast in the world.
You got to hear it live.
It's not just the methamphetamines. It's a love of the show.
It's not just the methamphetamines. So
hey.
Now the top
guys.
5. Now, Mark, have you got a handle on this one? Because I know that Jim's been kind of stepping all over you of late. When it comes
Jim has the advantage of I've watched a lot more foosball than me. There's a whole decade gap that I didn't or more that I wasn't around the game much. But I know the players well enough. I think I'm going to have a good fight. I think it's going to be a good fight with Jim.
All right, we'll see about that. Yeah. It's the top international players on the American tour, performances, career, however you want to look at it, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait. And in fact, though, I think that it's already high time for a social lubricant. What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA. Of course, Jim, as you always do, you've always got a knack for choosing a great IPA. What would it be this week?
Well, a few weeks ago on the show, I went down to my local Star Liquors, it's called, right down the street here, and I picked up a beer that I'd never had before out of the Odd 13 Brewery up in Lafayette, Colorado, which is just north of Denver, actually about 5 miles from where Colorado State Championships are held every year. And I really enjoyed it. I went out and I got another 4-pack in this case of it, and then another one after that, and really enjoyed it. It became my really go-to single IPA there for a week or two, and so I figured I'd sample something else from the Odd 13 Brewery. It's called the Colorado Kid. It seems appropriate. Me living in Colorado and me being a kid. It's a 7.2% alcohol, locally sourced hazy IPA with Troubadour malts. And it's hopped with Cascade and Galaxy. And I do want to finish up that story as well. There's more to this Odd 13 story. But first, I want to hear what you're having, Tom.
Well, it's actually very interesting because it's the name is Daisy Cutter. Daisy Cutter Pale Ale. It's from Half Acre Beer Company in Chicago, Illinois, Mark.
Oh.
Right down the street, I'm sure. Daisy Cutter. But isn't that like a weapon, a Daisy Cutter?
I think
it's a bomb.
A bomb,
yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. Well,
I don't know.
Let's see what a Daisy Cutter is like. Let's try a
sample of this. Way to give Jim and Rhys a Vietnam flashback in the middle of the show. Oh, nice done.
Oh, man.
By the way, I am simultaneously tasting this Colorado Kid and not more outstanding.
That's gross.
Simultaneously. Gross.
Yeah, to you drinking and me as well. Very enjoyable.
Cheers. Oh, very nice. And you, Mark, what pray tell?
Well, this week, guys, I have an IPA called Safe Word that tastes like banana. My favorite safe word. Less banana, less banana. What? No, I got coffee.
Oh God. Safe word banana. Oh, this is too much already. It's only
Clay, what are you drinking, dude? Just get in here, dude.
I'm drinking a big glass of regret after hearing that sentence. Oh my God.
Here we go.
I have a 12 fluid ounce and let's go metric 355 milliliter can of Dr. Pepper.
Love that.
He's good at that. He is good at that.
That's a Southern drink, by the way, Dr. Pepper.
I'll tell you what.
Pepper.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper. And water, of course.
Pepper.
Hey, fellas. I
jalapeno pepper.
I want to talk a little more about this whole Odd 13 thing. Yeah. Because after that show, I received a text from the former United States men's team coach, Jerry Todd, who says that did I know that they had a free foosball tournament there at the Odd 13 Brewery?
They do.
In Lafayette pre-COVID, and mostly beginners, but he says he'd go down there as well once in a while to kind of teach them. He said it was a great group. And so that alerted us to the fact that there was a foosball connection. Then, looking at some feedback, I think, Tom, you sent this out to us. last week from a gentleman named Ryan Scott.
Yes.
Who is one of the owners of the Odd 13 Brewing Company there in Lafayette. And he talked about how he enjoys foosball and enjoys hosting these foosball tournaments. And once they're allowed to have them again, they're going to continue that. But what a neat, and I didn't know, I just went and grabbed a beer off the shelf, right? And then to find out there was actually a foosball connection, that was kind of cool.
Odd 13. It sounds like something we could, maybe do some kind of a tournament broadcast from there. From
that'd
the Odd 13 Brewery.
That'd be fun. It could get pretty messy after a couple hours.
But that's probably true.
But it's good, great beer and a foosball connection. So that's kind of cool. And so, and speaking of foosball connections, guys, I think we can kind of announce our upcoming schedule of guests. We actually have guests scheduled for the next 3 weeks, and boy, is it a special collection. Tom Robinson, Hall of Famers. Go ahead and document, if you don't mind, the people coming in here in the next few weeks.
Okay, so it looks like next week at this time, we'll be chatting with superstar and, of course, movie star Mike Bowers.
Yeah,
Mike
the
Bowers.
Godfather.
Yeah, wow, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, I have a chance to work with Mike at the different Hall of Fame ceremonies, and he's a guy who can get up on stage and reach back and find a really fascinating story from the really early days of the American tour. We're talking 1974,
right?
Famous tournament up in Missoula, which was really the first big tournament of its kind, and then later that year I believe it was the same year, in Denver there at the Elitch Gardens Amusement Park, where they had a $50,000 tournament. And of course, Mike has told the story. I think he told it in the movie.
Yes.
How he came out on top of that. So we're looking forward to that. Mark, your thoughts about Mr. Bowers?
Man, gosh, man. So the guys are there at the beginning, like before the rules were even figured out. We're like stop ball passing and as many walls as you want. As these guys were formulating the tactics and strategies and gameplay that would make it interesting and legal to do certain things on the table. It's a really fun show. I'm super excited about having. And Bowers took Spear and Lafredo under his wing and brought these guys into his table tournament room and I'm looking forward to it. That's all I can say. Super amazing.
No doubt. Looking forward. I mean, of course, everybody who's watched Foosballers knows exactly who Mike Bowers is. Also, the following week, another great night with Dave Corrington. Big name.
Yeah,
big name.
We'll have the godfather of foosball next week, and then we'll have the father of the modern tornado tour, Dave Corrington, the week after that. And talk about a guy who can tell a story. And you know this, Mark Torres. Dave is quite the accomplished storyteller. He'll have a lot of them about the early days of the tornado tour, about his career as a player before he became a promoter, and then, of course, eventually a Hall of Famer. In fact, all three of our guests the next 3 weeks, all in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Anybody listens to the show knows I'm a 90s guy, and Dave Corrington was the prominent figure through the second golden era of foosball, as we describe it. He was the patriarch at the head of the table. He was the guy. And so I've a tremendous memory of Dave Corrington leading foosball into another great age of success.
He basically reinvented the game again. But that's cool. And then Tony Bacon, 3 weeks from see,
he'll be with us tonight on Sunday, March 14th.
Nice.
Of course, Tony, one of the truly great players in the history of the sport. I think when we talked about our list of maybe players of the 80s,
5 bar,
right there,
top 5 bars,
top 5 bar,
both those lists.
Yeah,
near the top of both of those, and we're talking one of the great fives of all time. And I've had a chance to watch Tony over the last few years over in Europe at the World Cup, when he contributed to a win in 2017 for the senior men's team. And then I think was part of the team that lost in 2019. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that with our special guest here tonight.
Okay. So Tony's considered one of the more aggressive players in the past, correct?
Yeah, yes. There's video of him in Dynamo Championships on YouTube. You could look him up. And this is when these guys left it all on the table. These guys are wild-eyed animals scrapping. I think I made mention of Tony multiple times that he if the tornado stayed on Dynamo, it's questionable how many more world championships Tony would have won. It was so fitting for his game. He was such a dominant figure on Dynamo. Scrappy fighter, and a fighter in the literal sense too, right, Jim?
Yeah, he was. He was a Golden Gloves boxer as well. Not a very big guy. Probably didn't go much more than about 130 pounds soaking wet there, but apparently accomplished with the fisticuffs and And we'll ask him about that when he comes on here in 3 weeks.
Right. Very, very cool. Well, that's quite a lineup. I'm looking forward to the coming weeks here. And of course, tonight's going to be a lot of fun as well. Of course, as we head across the pond, I thought perhaps this would be a great time to look back in history and hear about one of those great players from across the pond.
With great moments in foosball history, this is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Got one stolen away by Robert Atha. A chance again to win it for Atha, who sets it up and strokes it home. And there it is. Robert Atha and Joe Hamilton defeat Tony Spredeman and Robert Morris to advance to the Open Doubles Final here at the Tornado World Championships. What a performance by those two gentlemen.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback.
If memory serves here, Jim, Joe Hamilton, wasn't he in a band called Hamilton, Joe, Frank, and Reynolds at one time?
might have been. They'd had a couple of hits there in the late 60s, I think.
Yeah.
Come on, people now. Anyway, so yeah, no, that was a different Hamilton.
Don't pour your love out on me.
Don't pour your love out. That's right.
Yeah.
And so no, nor was he the treasurer, I believe, of the United States back in the early days either.
Right.
But Joe Hamilton, in Robert Atha that weekend, winning the winners bracket, beating Spredeman and Morris to get to the finals.
Wow.
They would face Tony and Rob in that final as Tony and Rob ended up coming back and winning their first world championship together on Tornado. And really took it to them, I believe, in 6 or 7 games. And so Joe and Rob finished second. But the one thing I remember most from that, I don't know, maybe you remember this, Mark. I know you were probably not around, but about halfway through maybe the second set of that open doubles final, things were not going well for Atha and Hamilton. Hamilton then moved into the forward position and ended up hitting 7, I believe the number is 7 slingshots down the stretch. In an era really just before the slingshot era, quote unquote, came along. So when people were just, it was crazy. It was exciting. I was commentating it. I think he hit 4 in one game against Robert Morris.
7.
They ended up losing anyway, but boy, was it exciting.
Let me tell you why that's ridiculous. It's hard to hit 7 straights or 7 longs on someone. Mm-hmm. So I can only imagine. I didn't see it. I could only imagine. It was shooting those on Robbie. Robbie froze up. That's a choking master goalie. So someone hit 7 slingshots on you was probably pretty hilarious. I think it's a good thing they won that match, because if they didn't win that match, Robbie would still be getting trauma therapy over that.
I think that's probably true. And the rumor that Joe Hamilton was wearing a purple shirt is simply not true.
I just picked that up. Jeez, I'm slow. Clay would have got that.
Clay? Yeah, Clay stepped back for a minute, but. So anyway, that's we're going to talk more about that, of course, about our top 5s when it comes to international performances, and maybe that's one of them. Maybe those are 2 of the players on the list.
Absolutely. Well, I'd say why not delay? Let's find out what is on your list. Of course, tonight the top 5 international players on the American tour. Are you guys ready to do this?
Oh yeah. Let's do it. Good luck, Mark.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live top 5.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's Jim Stevens and Mark Torres.
Yeah, it's a fun topic tonight, Mark. I think it's one that's going to really kind of open up the interest, or at least to sort of regenerate the interest in international table soccer here in this country. Because that's really where it's at. It's an international game more than it ever has been. The focus on multi-table players now is really what you're looking at when talking about the best players in the world. And so tonight, that's kind of our focus, obviously, with our guest, the Flashback, and now with this as well. There are good American-style players from all around the world. Tornado is one of the primary tables in countries like Japan, in Iran, Great Britain, Costa Rica, Malaysia, Kuwait, UAE, in fact, the entire Persian Gulf. And it's, there are these tables spread around the world. However, international players have not had a lot of success on the U.S. tour. I think before Frederic Collignon, you could really count on one hand, maybe half a hand, the number of international players who had really made any sort of impact here in this country. Whereas the opposite is kind of true. The players here in America, when they would go overseas internationally, would have some success. Obviously, Billy Pappas, who's a world champion on Garlando and on P4P. Ryan Moore, a world champion on Roberto Sport in the Guardian table. Tony won the Leonhardt World Championship in open singles in 2019. And of course, they've been extremely successful in multi-table, with Ryan winning singles and doubles, with Blake Robertson, remember, in 2019. Tony and Rob picked up a multi-table championship. Dave Gummison and Tracy McMillan, Tom Yore, Brandon Moreland, and of course, the U.S. team winning 6 gold medals in 10 World Cups. So the opposite is true. The Americans have made an impact internationally. But as you know, Mark, and you're a guy in the 90s when we really didn't see anything of international import, so to speak, until Fred came along. But that kind of changed, and now I think we put together a list that draws from a fair number of players.
So Mark, you ready to do this, or do you have some honorable mentions to dive into first?
I don't have any honorable mentions, Tom.
Okay,
I'm not going to honorably mention anybody.
I will. I will.
Okay.
Let's do it afterwards.
Yeah, let's do it
afterwards. Okay.
No, Mark is not capable of mentioning anybody honorably.
I have dishonorable mentions, but let's forget those for now.
All right, here we go.
Let's do it. Talk Live Top 5. Number.
That was a great intro, Jim. And I think if there's a defense for the European players, Tornado Championships are like unicorns for American players. There's a handful of Americans that typically dominate the tour at any one time. And that has been true whether it's 2,000 people playing or 300 people playing. A handful of people dominate. So when it's a unicorn for Americans, it's essentially non-existent for Europeans unless you're one guy. But that being said, I looked at the body of work. I looked at success, and then I managed the number that way. My number 5 is Rob Atha. My number 5 is Rob Atha because if you look at the body of work, and I mean, my analogy for this is Bill Walton. There's a question about Bill Walton in basketball. Does he get in the Basketball Hall of Fame without his college career? Maybe, because he had a good career with the Boston Celtics. But Rob Atha, his body of work, and Rob's will say this for himself, he made an effort to win at every level. He was rookie and then expert and then pro, and he won pro championships. By the way, I beat him in the final of a pro doubles championship. I'll just say it because I enjoy saying that. So he's had finals finishes. We just heard one in the flashback. Highly competitive at the highest levels and falls short, just like our American Masters does. But if you look at the body of work on Tornado, he is probably the second most successful male player or third most successful male player on Tornado in the history of the Tornado Championships altogether. There used to be 5 majors, and now I think we might call it 2 or 3, maybe. And so there were more opportunities to win in the 90s and in the ensuing decades before we get to the present era where there's a smaller number of championship really majors to win. But at my number 5, due to this cumulative success along all levels, I got Rob Atha at number 5.
Interesting. Yeah. At number 5. And again, I think based on that, our lists are going to be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. At number 5, I have Joe Hamilton, Robert Atha's partner. Joe, who in my opinion is probably, in fact, definitely, I think the second best player to ever come out of Great Britain. We just talked about his exploits at the World Championships in 2013 with partner Robert Atha, and finishing second, getting to the finals. And that was, the other thing I remember about that event, the 2013, just to kind of follow up on that and talk a little bit about Joe, is that overnight, I think we all heard somehow through the grapevine or on the internet that British player Rob Davey had passed away kind of unexpectedly, I think, to some degree. And I remember they had won the winner's bracket, Joe and Rob, and then heard about this and then had to deal with it. Even thought about not playing the next day because this was a guy who had played with both of them. They're still one of the great members of Team GB. And so I remember how emotional that time was. And they came out the next day and got killed in the final. But again, it was Hamilton showing off the slingshot. And here's the other thing about Joe Hamilton, why I have him at number 5. Joe Hamilton in 2016 and 2017 went back-to-back at the Nebraska State Championships in open doubles, and played just marvelous foosball with me. I was his partner for both of those. And
Really?
Joe was.
Hell, he should get in the Hall of Fame for that.
Yeah, he should. Look at I get to bring one up as opposed to the 1990 Amateur Doubles World Championship. And you can actually go and watch those matches if you want. In one of them in particular, I don't recall if I commentated both of them, but I did commentate one of them after playing. But Joe Hamilton, great dude, has worked with me on the air, outstanding player. Really has really taken his American style game developed in Great Britain and really done some great things here in this country. He's had some other top finishes as well. I've got him at number 5, my good friend Joe Hamilton.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 4.
Like I said, I got to look at successes here on the Tornado Tour. I mean, that's the nature of what this top 5 is about. And so my number 4 is going to go to the great female player from Canada, Linda Lee. And it's her world championship wins on the Tornado World women's doubles. And she has singles wins too. And she competes at a very high level. She's always a threat. I've seen her go ball for ball, pass for pass with great masters on the tour. She doesn't have a ton of top finishes in the open events, but in respect to who she's had to compete with on the women's side, and a relatively small but mighty pool of Canadian players to practice and learn and grow with, and her commitment to developing on the international side of foosball, I'm going with Linda Lee at number 4.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Linda, of course, I believe she's a 4-time world champion. She's won singles, she's won doubles, and she's won mixed doubles with Ryan Moore. Mm-hmm. And just a great player. Credit to the sport. Really does it the right way. She's also been a prominent member of Team Canada on more than one occasion, more than 2 occasions even. Class act on and off the table. And yes, Canada, last I checked, is international, isn't it? Even though it does feel oftentimes like the Canadians are very much part of the American foosball family. But I went a little bit of a different direction. I went with a Canadian lady as well. But I went with the late, great Moya Thielens. In my opinion, Moya Thielens is the greatest Canadian player to ever play. And I can back it up with numbers. Moya first notched a world championship win back in 1997 with Laurette Gunther. I believe they also took 9th in open doubles that year. And I remember they knocked off some big teams because Moya could compete with anybody. Moya's 5, Moya's 3 were just top 10% among all players, period. And then moving ahead a little bit to the early 2000s, Moya Thielens in 2001 won again at the Hall of Fame Classic with Laurette Gunther. And then in 2002, Moya won all 3 major championships in both doubles and singles. 2 of those doubles wins with Laurette Gunther, one with Stephanie Ohashi. She won all 3 Hall of Fame Classic, Nationals, and World Championship in singles. She was, for me, the best lady forward I'd ever seen. And, in many ways, the best lady player I had ever seen. Cindy Head, probably a better singles player, in fact, no doubt a better singles player just from her understanding of the singles format. But as far as lady forwards go, she's the best I've ever seen. It's still a bit sad to think about the fact she isn't around. And when I see her on these videos, and of course, we all remember her performance in 2004 as a forward with Garrett Schirkenbach, and they won the Hall of Fame Classic Championship in mixed doubles. First time that had ever happened, only time that has ever happened. So having to honor in this position, certainly the great Canadian player, Moya Thielens.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
So for me, going back to this theme of body of work, but also when was this person successful? And so my number 3, and I have fond memories of watching this gentleman play, Dieter Thiele. Dieter was a stud. And Dieter and Bentivoglio would come over to the States, and these guys would practice on a certain surface and a certain ball. And I'd see Dieter, and he'd be pissed off, man. He'd be playing at our World Championships, and he'd be completely complaining because they changed the surface like 3 months before the tournament. It went from a light green to a dark green, and the balls were different. And these guys still would be they'd be in the thick of everything. He has 2 top 3 finishes at the Worlds, 2nd in open doubles. And that's the other thing, too. He took 3rd in open singles at the 92 Tornado Worlds. And this is when, in the heyday, It's when everybody is playing. So when he did it is important too. If you look at Dieter's game, he passed firewall brush, and he shot. He did 2 to the 5 passing firewall. He did 5 to the 3 passing firewall, and he shot a Euro pin, and then he also shot a 2-bar pin from the back, a Euro pin. So that's essentially the beginning of what would later become Frédéric's game. That would become the style of play that Frédéric would make, exceptional. So Dieter, amazing player. He says he would lose, unfortunately, in singles and doubles, and then he'd win goalie wars or he'd win shootout. That's how he was a stud, man. Dieter, my number 3.
Well, we've landed on the same player at number 3. I also have Dieter Thiele in my number 3 position. You mentioned the 2 top 3 finishes. One of those with our good friend Giuliano Bentivoglio, who I had the pleasure of playing with at the Tech Ball World Championships back in 2008 in Germany. Class act himself. And under consideration here with his second place finish with Dieter at those 86 Worlds. But the other thing about Dieter Thiele, he was a pioneer, right? He was really the first guy to come over from overseas and from Germany in particular here, and have success and be competitive. You talked about in singles, pass 2 to the 5, but in goalie war, he's shooting that front pin series from goal. A front pin series, when you're playing the goalie position in doubles, is not a great tactic on the Tornado table. No one really has ever been able to make it work successfully. But in goalie war, where there's no 5-man and no 3-man defending you, he used to hammer people with that front pin series, which is a very common way of shooting the ball on the European tables and in Germany in particular. So pioneer status, of course, knocking down some walls for Fred and others to come along. The first guy we thought about as a great international player, and one of only 2 European players in the American Table Soccer Hall of Fame. The other one is Frédéric Collignon. So there you go, number 3 for me as well, Dieter Thiele.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
Well, you described all her accolades, and I, how could I not put Moya at number 2? Her 5-bar was on par with every master out there. She could get the ball just as well. She was scrappy on the 5-bar defense, but that 5-bar, there's nothing better evidence than that when she won forward in open mix with Garrett. That world championship win with Garrett as a forward was a remarkable accomplishment, and she beat Frédéric in the final.
In
Cindy Head, yeah. So it's arguable. Is it arguable? The 2 greatest male and female players of all time, and Moya beats them in a final in a pinnacle moment. So I couldn't put Atha above Moya for that reason. And this is not just pandering, that she's not with us anymore. I'm going to be honest and tell you, I played her 3 times, and I'm 0-3 against Moya. And I don't think I'm 0-3 against anybody like that except for Moya. So Moya Thielens, because her 5-bar is on par with any master, and her 3-bar wasn't blazing, but she hit every hole with equal precision. When she was hot, she was going to take you to the heat, and it was going to be a match ball situation. Moya Thielens, my number 2.
And again, I pretty much said everything I could about her. Just what a pleasure she was in her prime to watch play, and for about a 5-year period, she was about as good as any lady player ever has been. My number 2 is a guy that I think you had a little bit low, and you made a good argument for putting Robert Atha at number 5 on your list. Internationally, of course, this is one of the top 3 or 4 greatest multi-table players to ever play the game. However, as you documented, the perception is he has come up short on Tornado. He does not have a world championship on Tornado. And I have to think at some point he'll get one. But despite that, he has several, at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head, finals appearances in open events. He top 3s, top 5s, always there. When you're watching him, he definitely passes the eyeball test as one of the very best players in the room, no matter where that room is located, be it Las Vegas, be it Dallas, be it Berlin. This is a guy, it's just a matter of time before he gets that world championship. And he's come close with Tommy Atkinson, came close with Joe Hamilton. Again, we talked about how difficult of a match that final was for the team of Atha and Hamilton with everything that was weighing on them. Not to make an excuse, they lost to one of the best teams of all time. But and then with Tommy a couple of times at the World Championships, with Blake Robertson in Las Vegas, they reached the finals in open doubles, I believe, in 2018. So for me, the eyeball test in particular, Robert Atha to me is the second best international player to ever compete here in America, and primarily the eyeball, but the record ain't too bad either.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the top 5. Number 1.
I wonder who you got.
Yeah, it's me, you guys. I consider myself from the Philippines, even though I was born in California. All right, no, seriously, I'm gonna tell a little story, and then we're gonna bridge right to Jim because he has all the context, and he was there for every match. And we're gonna have Dave Currington in a couple weeks. I bet you he wouldn't even remember this. Maybe he will. It was the early '90s, like '93, '94. I was about to quit playing, and I was thinking it through, and I thought, Dave, you know what you should do? You should have $1 million prize. And the $1 million prize will be for the first player to triple at the world. I told Dave Currington this at a tournament. Dave, you need $1 million cash prize. It's for the first player to triple at the worlds 3 years in a row. If you triple, if no one's ever going to do it. So get all these guys, and you gotta make sure you manage for people doing weird, funky stuff like splitting, and how could they ever get it done? Anyway, we had this conversation with Dave Currington. Dave Currington thought about it, and he thought it was probably too risky. And then I thought no one could even get close. And then Frederic Collignon comes around, and I'm like, holy crap! Can you imagine if that prize was there? He probably would have put his mind to it, and he probably would be a millionaire. Right? He would have probably won $1 million prize. So very fortunate no one listened to me in the 90s. That would probably be one of the worst business ideas. Anyway, Frederic Collignon, there's not much to say other than greatest all time at everything foosball. Jim, take it away, please.
Yeah, for sure. And Mark and I even talked about the fact maybe we make this the top 5 list, except for Fred. But how can you not honor this guy? And we're going to take a little bit of a closer look specifically at the fact that he's an international player coming and playing on the American tour. I think I first saw him in 1995. Kind of just one of the international players in attendance that year, playing in the lower divisions, etc. And then in 1996, I believe it was, suddenly this guy is finishing in the top 5 in doubles, singles, and mixed doubles. And we're like, whoa, is this the second coming of Dieter Thiele? What's going on here? Because Dieter was the bar had been set by this guy, by the German Thiele. And then in 1998, he comes through at the Hall of Fame Classic, reaching the finals with Ismail Saban, another great international player. And we got, okay, this guy is for real. And then, of course, the legendary story about him hooking up through Ingrid, his significant other, with Todd Lafredo for 1998, which we were all excited about. And, of course, we thought they might do well. In fact, I believe I predicted they were going to win, and they did. And then the rest is history. 30 wins on the U.S. Tour, 30 open titles on the U.S. Tour, tripled at the World Championship, didn't do it 3 straight years, but did do it 3 times, which is just extraordinary because no one except for Steve Murray had ever done it coming into 1999 when he did it for the first time. And this is a guy that really changed everything. Really brought the focus. The focus of the world had been on America for the most part throughout the years. It was the big tour. It was the famous players, etc. If you were going to the World Championships, you were coming to Dallas. And so this guy, though, really opened up the eyes of the Americans that, wow, this is a European player playing a European style of play and having success on our table. Dieter had done that before that, but not like this guy, not with the precision, not with the intelligence, not with the hand speed, right? And so this was easy, obviously, gives us another chance to talk about the guy that is the greatest player of all time, but also to kind of just let everybody know what an impact it was when it happened back then. And I was right there. I was doing these matches. I was telling the story. He was writing the story, and it was a heck of a story. Frederic Collignon, my number 1. And Mark's.
Well, that's not surprising because Freddie, of course, even by the great Todd Lafredo, has been mentioned as the greatest player ever. So, that makes sense. Makes a whole lot of sense.
A few honorable mentions. I know Mark's got some honorable mentions that he'll follow up with after me. But another great Canadian player, maybe the greatest male Canadian player ever, Mario Aragonello. Third in open singles at the Tornado World, second in open doubles with Kane Gabriel, another outstanding player out of Canada. We mentioned Giuliano Bentivolio, Benti, earlier, the second place finish at the 86 Worlds. And again, this is, if you don't know Benti, this is a guy who is, even now at the age of pushing 70 years old, competes in the open events internationally on every table and in multi-table and still does really well. Ismail Saban, another Hall of Fame level European player, European Hall of Fame, International Hall of Famer. Linda Lee, you talked about her. And then, 2010, a great player out of Germany who I think right about this time became the best lady player in the world, Sandra Rompf, came over in her only appearance at the Tornado World Championships and won women's singles, which was really something. This was the best multi-table player in the world, but to win on Tornado, that's a big deal. A couple more, then we'll move on, but can't forget about Costa Rica.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, 2019 Tornado World Championships, Kevin Romero, Carlos Cespedes Martinez, third place finishers in open doubles. That was the year Tommy Yor and Brandon Moreland defeated Blake Robertson and Todd Lafredo in the final. Well, it was the Costa Ricans that were third that year. Brandon Munoz, the incredibly talented monster out of Costa Rica, who in his first event at the TKO, now I guess 3 years ago, I think won 7 events and finished 5th in open singles in his first tournament ever in the United States. Just remarkable. And I remember another year with a whole bunch of Costa Ricans winning world championships. So there has been, some influence of late internationally at the Tornado Worlds. And then finally in Germany, a lot of the young players in Germany these days are training on Tornado because they want to be great multi-table players, and the rock stars play on Tornado. So guys like Felix Russa, the outstanding forward out of Germany, or Thomas Haas, the world champion in 2017 multi-table, who also finished 4th in Vegas a couple of years ago in open singles. So, the world is catching up a little bit when it comes to the American Tour, Mark Torres. And I know you've got a couple things to say as well.
Yeah, I don't want to forget Bentivolio. I know we mentioned him, and I was going to mention Thomas Haas too. But correct me, I think Kane Gabriel won a major with Ryan Moore. Didn't he win one? And didn't so that's like winning a major is a credit. It's a success story, since more people do not ever win one or get to the finals for that matter. So I want to make sure that Kane gets recognized for a great championship win with Ryan. I wasn't around. It's a memory that I heard. I didn't even see it.
I want to say 2017 Nationals. It was a national championships. Yeah. Okay. In Colorado Springs, I believe.
All right. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right, there you go, Tom.
So, Mark, you had mentioned earlier that you had encouraged Dave to hold a $1 million prize for those who could, a person who could win all three.
Well, all three 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row,
which at that time seemed impossible because only Murray had done it one time.
Okay, now wouldn't it have been prudent to go to Lloyd's of London and have that insured to see if that had ever happened?
It's funny. Back then, you could write whatever you wanted on a Tornado flyer, and it didn't matter what you put on there. You could offer people a Lear jet if they won, and they would not be legally bound to it. No one had the money to sue anybody anyway.
Yeah.
So what?
That's pretty much what they still do, by the way.
Yeah. all the fine print, man. All the small language.
You could always pay $1 million over 30 years at a month at a time, something like that.
No. It would end up being a coupon book, like $1 million coupon book.
You get $1 million worth of Foosbucks. Redeemable at the nearest Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes, you too can earn Foosbucks. I love that. I think that's a great promotion.
We might have something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Well, I have to give you a little background here, guys. Maybe Jim can relate to this, but back in the 1960s, when the Beatles hit the shores of the U.S. in 1964, still remember watching them on the Ed Sullivan Show. Everything became, every British this, British that. I mean, it was just, it was the British invasion, quite literally, not just when it came to music, but all other forms of entertainment as well. But, I became an Anglophile and just, loved all that stuff. So
yeah, same here.
I think it's so cool. We're going to have somebody who has a genuine British accent with us tonight. In fact, all the way from London, from London, England, and a pretty good foosball player, from what I understand. A big fan of FoosTalk Live. We'd love to welcome Rhys Roberts. Rhys, are you with us?
Yes. Hello,
Rhys. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Very nicely.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks
clear.
for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So now I understand that you've been listening to us since since we first came on with the live show last year. Is this something that you've been doing for a while?
Yeah, I've listened to most of the broadcasts, not quite all of them, but almost all of them.
So give the FoosTalk Live audience an idea as to what time it is in London currently.
It's 2:45 in the morning.
2:45 a.m.
Yeah, so I usually tune in at 2:00 and stay with you until you finish at 4.
Very cool. Wow, we greatly appreciate that. By the way, that is fantastic. So it is, of course, an honor to have you. But of course, when it comes to foosball, the tradition here is: when did it all start for you? When did you first see a foosball table, and what kind was it?
Well, I went to London University, Queen Mary College in 1975.
Okay.
And that's where I first saw a table, and I don't think I touched it for the first 3 months, but at the beginning of 1976, I started to play there, and it was a very good college for table football because they had the national champions for both doubles and singles. One of the guy had won both, and his partner won the doubles. So
from that college,
yeah,
wow,
they had a lot of strong players there.
And what was the table?
It was called a Brighouse table. It was an Italian style table, similar to a Garlando, but an old style Garlando where in the Garlando tables these days, they're a bit, the feet of the player are a bit more tapered like they are on a Tornado, but back then they were more like a block on the end of the foot. And the other difference between a Garlando and a Brighouse was that the spacing on the 3-bar, don't know if you know, but the spacing on the 3-bar on a Garlando is the players are wider apart than they are on a Tornado.
Right.
And on the Brighouse, the spacing was the same as they are on a Tornado. I know that because I've got a Tornado 3-bar in my shed, and I checked it out on the Tornado, and they're pretty much the same, unlike a Garlando.
What's the 3-bar doing in your shed instead of on a table?
Well, when I say shed, it's my foos den. So I've got 4 tables in there actually.
No kidding.
I've got a Tornado, a Bonzini, a Garlando, and a Leonhardt. The Leonhardt actually belongs to Will
Hawks.
Will Hawks, yeah. He lent it to me because he'd run out of space at his place. So I've got those 4 tables in my shed at the moment.
And how often do you play?
Well, I was playing an awful lot, but I tore a tendon in my right shoulder in June, doing practice during lockdown, since there was nothing else to do. But I tore the tendon, and it was very painful. And I've only started light practice again recently in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I hope to get back, but it's I can't do half the things anymore.
Well, I mean, right now there's not much competition going on anyway, so you can have more time to heal up. Incidentally, in England itself, the country is pretty much locked down for all tournaments and bars, pubs, and taverns.
Yeah, you can't. At the moment, you can't go out apart from things like work or health reasons or shopping, essential food and stuff like that. So yeah, we can't go and do anything at the moment.
Wow, interesting. What was the first time you actually went to a major tournament?
Well, I went to the Brighouse National Championships in 1977, 78 and 79. And in 1977, I didn't do very well, but in the 78, I came 4th in the singles and 2nd in the doubles.
No kidding.
With my partner Bob Elliott, who, for those of you over there, he lives in the Chicago area. I got in touch with him recently, so maybe you can get him to come out for a game when it's allowed. And in 1979, I came second in the singles. So those were my
you've had a great time on the table. You've had some great moments. What's the biggest prize you've ever won?
Oh, nothing really. When it comes to prize money, I haven't. Well, this is back in the 70s when you were playing for Porsches and trucks and stuff like that.
Right.
If you won the open singles or the open doubles at the Brighouse Championships, you would win about £100. And well, the exchange rate between the dollar and the pound now, it's not quite, but it's 1 point something, not very much, isn't it? So
right.
Think of it as being $100 back then.
In 79, that was before the ball was round. It was still square. Hey, man, let me ask you a question. What were the rules like? I'm fascinated by the rules people play with.
Yeah, well, there weren't many rules. So when you were talking about someone smashing the... Oh, no, that was on another broadcast earlier today. So basically, there were no time limits. You could bash, you could jar as much as you liked. Really? So when I was playing in college, if I got the ball on my 3-bar, I'm setting up my pull shots, someone might well be bashing the sides of the table, and I just wait for them to stop, and then when it's set up, they start bashing again. But eventually they realise that it's not going to faze me, and I just wait. So I sit on the ball long enough, and then they
no time limit.
They realise that if they just bash, I'm going to just set it up again.
those are the primate days. That's 1 degree away from throwing your feces at your opponent. You're right there, man. You're right there.
Yeah.
I have a good. Go ahead.
And whilst that's happening, people are shouting abuse at you as well. So
that brings me so much joy. I had the good fortune of they had a Yahoo tournament at Yahoo, the company in California,
Yahoo?
And I did play-by-play in color for interns or the company tournament, and they had no concept of the rules, and it was hysterical. They would bang the 5-bar and then shoot, and the guy would he'd pull my finger thing and like throw the ball on the table. It was so funny.
That's right. When you got the pull shot set up, you smash the wall with your own 5-bar to make them jump, and then you just hit the straight. That was part of the. That was standard part of the game.
That is funny stuff.
I'm taking notes here so I can make some ask the ITSF Rules Commission to make a few changes.
no time limits. I played my brother once in a no time limit match just because we hated each other, and I would sit on the ball until he got pissed off, and then I would shoot.
Right. Well, I guess there was a sort of honour amongst these, if you like, and once it's set up for you wouldn't wait forever, but there weren't. Once it's, I guess, the most difficult bit on some tables. It's easy to set up a pull shot on a tornado, but on some tables it's not that easy. And Brighouse is one of those, so it wasn't as easy as it is on tornado. It was more like trying to set it up on a Garlander or a Bonzini, where it can be a lot more difficult.
Bonzini, I love it. I love the fact that how much Bonzini did you play when you were coming through?
Well, in 1979, after those championships, table football died pretty much a death in the UK around about 1980. So I stopped playing in 1980, and I started again in 1999. At which point it was Tornado mainly that I was playing, but there was some Bonzini. There were a couple of good bars in central London that had Bonzini tables. There's Cafe Kick, where actually I once came third in the DYP behind Alan Cribbs and Bruce Nardocci.
Wow.
At Cafe Kick. Yeah, they came around there. And its sister bar called Bar Kick, which was my favourite place. They had 6 Bonzinis, 5 or 6 upstairs and a similar number downstairs.
Man.
But just in the last few months, they've done a refurbishment, or as I prefer to call it, vandalism. They've changed the bar completely, and it looks like we're not going to have. They might keep 2 Bonzinis by the looks of it, 2, possibly 3 downstairs, but we used to have a lot of bar kick.
Rhys, are you still there? Yep. You just cut out on us briefly there. You still with us?
Oh, yep. Yeah, I was talking about bar kick, and I was just saying that it had a lot of Bonzini tables, and that Tony Spreaderman, I believe, has been to bar kick once as well.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Wow.
I wasn't there when he was there, unfortunately.
Right. And
we're talking with Rhys Roberts, who I believe was also the 6th Beatle, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So when did you talked about you kind of shut it down around 1980 and then came back in 1999? When did you really have awareness of what was going on internationally, in particular here in the United States, where the big tour in the 70s, and then of course Tornado Tour, and you became a Tornado player, of course. But what talk a little bit about the view from the islands there. Of the American table football scene.
In the 1980s, when I was playing on Brighouse, there were also people playing on tournament soccer, but we didn't have the internet in those days. So I had a small awareness of tournament soccer, and I played in a few tournament soccer table tournaments, but that was around about 1979 and 1980, and just caught the tail end of it. But I know that other people in the tournament soccer players in the UK, they went to tournaments and won trips to go to America. In fact, I think I posted something on the 1970s Foosball Facebook group of results of the 1979 World Championships that I think were held in Minneapolis. And Titch Deegan and Bruce Jassel were mentioned there. They came, I think, 33rd equal or something. And I know several other people who have been over to the States in that era. But when I started again in 1999, Titch Deegan was putting on a series of tournaments, and there was the open and the novice events, and if you did the best over this series of events, then you would win a trip to the Tornado Worlds. And when I came back, they ranked me as a novice, and me and my partner Pasquale Venanzio, we won the trip, and we came over to the Dallas Worlds in 1999. And I went to a couple of other worlds after that, 2003 and 2004.
That's awesome. I got to ask you this question. So you're over there. What's the perception of the American players? Is your exposure through Inside Foos video and digital media and online stuff? How are the American players viewed as dominant foosers that you pattern or try to learn from? Or I'm just curious.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you go to tournaments, obviously you talk with each other, and I was buying Inside Foos videos on tape back in 2006, 7, 8, something like that. And you talk to the other people, and they all know about the US. It had such a lot of strength in depth, a lot of good players, and when I was playing table football back then, I did my own spreadsheet of the US champions over the Hall of Fame, the Nationals, and the World Championships to see the names, who was winning what, and so on.
Cool.
So I was familiar with the names, and so they were like our foosball heroes for me anyway, and I think they were for many other people over here. So, in the UK, at least. I don't know so much about other countries in Europe.
Now, before you traveled to the States to play, what was your what was the biggest surprise you got when you first came to the States?
The biggest surprise, first of all, was just seeing 200 table football tables in one massive room.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, just seeing that. So my wallpaper on my laptop, on one of my laptops anyway, is those. I stood on the bleachers and looked down, took a photograph of that, and I think they were all open at the time as well, so they were all propped open. So that was my wallpaper on my laptop. But yeah, that was the first thing. But then, of course, when you watch the competition, and also in the bar that they've got set up there as well, when you're watching them playing away from the tournaments, playing 2-ball or whatever, Tommy Atkinson and so on, and the chat that's going on. But yeah, watching all the big names, all the big players out there, it was fantastic, and getting to play against some of them sometimes as well.
So what's the biggest name you've played against so far?
Oh, well, the biggest name I've played against is Frederic.
Nice.
He came over to the UK a few times in the 2000s, and actually, that was the most nervous I've ever been. So, back in the 1970s, when I was playing in the national championships on Brighouse, I was a nervous wreck at the start of one of the tournaments. But the most nervous I've been was Frederic came over for a tournament, and he's practicing by himself on a table, and I go up and start to play with him.
Oh.
And before you know it, there's this huge crowd round watching Frederic demolish me. And I've never been so nervous in my life. It was awful. And I offered, would anyone else like to take over? And of course, they all declined. None of them wanted to step up. So I had to suffer a bit more until Frederic thankfully said, I think I need to practice by myself now. So that was good for me.
Rhys, my plan there is always to start off slowly and end up in a pool of urine. That's always my
plan. Yeah.
Hey, Rhys, I'm gonna do you a big favor now. I'm gonna bring up a wonderful memory for you, and it isn't that long ago. It's 2019 in Murcia, Spain, the men's senior doubles, or rather senior team event. You guys face the United States in the semifinals. Team Great Britain versus the United States. The United States loaded with, I think, 4 Hall of Fame players, names like Bacon and Biney and Zamora. And you guys beat them. And I remember hearing about this across the room, because that team had won in 2017, the U.S. men's team. And I felt that U.S. men's team, that senior team, probably could have finished in the top 4 of the Open division, right? Of the men's division.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to call it the biggest upset in foosball history, but it's up there, man. It's a top 5. And that you guys, and obviously Dave Zeman, you had some really, really, really good players on that team, but none of the notoriety of the Americans that were on that senior team. You guys took them down and advanced to the finals and took second.
Wow.
How about that?
Not at all. Yeah. Before the match, we had a lot of discussions about the team, and one of the things that Dave Zeman does is he does his tic-tac in attack, and he can shoot a rollover, a pull shot, a pull kick, but when he's doing his tic-tac, it can be very difficult to stop, and I think that he was tic-tacking people to death in that match. Before the match started, I remember, Tom, you sometimes ask people, have you ever gone into a match thinking you're going to lose and then you end up winning? Well, this was it. And I said to Dave Zeman, who was our captain, before the match started, if we're losing by a big margin, say we're 10 points down at halfway, then just substitute 3 of us, so the other 3 get a chance to play against these people, and they can say that they played against these American greats. But obviously, at halfway, we were leading, and Dave Zeman asked me, "Should we change the team? Should we put in any substitutes?" So I said, "No, I don't think so." But yeah, that was as you say, an upset as far as I was concerned. But I must say, I was more pessimistic going into it than some of our team members. Some of our team members were saying, "Yeah, come on, Rhys, we can do this." And obviously, you're always going to try your best, and you're always going to try and win, whatever it is. But realistically, at the start of it, I didn't think that we would, and it was a shock.
I can see them doing a documentary about it. You know, the American Hall of Famers versus the British table football pub players. Sort of thing. Because it was amazing, and what a testament to you guys and as a team, and Dave Beeman, who's a heck of a player. We know Dave, multiple world champion
he's my doubles partner over the last year in senior.
Really.
Senior competitions,
and he's a great senior player, no doubt about it, and has won a world championship. In fact, he won the first senior world championship that I covered, or maybe the second one back in 2007 in Italy. Had a great week there. So
I'll just have one note about that.
Singles and doubles.
I have one note about that senior. Steve Murray pretends like it never happened. Steve Murray, Steve Murray probably should get trauma therapy.
Where's Steve?
Over that second time I've noted trauma therapy in his broadcast, by the way, because it's a teeth grinding moment if that gets brought up. Just a heads up. So you guys got to come in. Go ahead.
Steve Murray. I played him in singles, and he was thrashing me. I was 6-1 down, but I managed to end up with 4-7, so I salvaged it a bit.
Wow.
And that was the only time during the match that we were behind. It was when we ended that leg up 32-31. So we're
gonna snip this. We're gonna snip this and send it to Steve Murray and say, "Hey, dude, that's what Rhys had to say about you."
Look out! The British home table was Tornado. Is that correct? The entire match?
No. We played Garland. In fact, I played. So we had Garlando for the team. Myself and Dave Zeman were playing Tornado in the doubles, and I was playing Bonzini in the singles.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it. I was actually over there in the arena. You guys were over on tables 117 and 118.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we heard about it. There were ripples across that arena. We heard about it, and what a moment it was for you and for the British team. And Tom asked you earlier what your first big win was, or what your greatest win was, and that, even though it's a second place finish, that's got to feel pretty good. That's got to be right up there.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that was a great. Finishing second. I mean, beating the Dutch after was that was 40-39. We beat them.
Wow.
Yeah,
that was tight.
So that was.
Well, one thing, we have to comment about your humble attitude here when it comes to playing, because that would have been one of the first things out of Mark's mouth.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's certainly the greatest moment. I'll tell you what, I was so happy for days, for weeks after that, just to think that we went out there and managed to beat that team, because, like you say, there's a team of fantastic players, and somehow we managed to beat them.
And you got a silver medal out of it. How exciting is that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hey, a medal's a medal, man. You're on the podium, and you were on the podium, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's something you'll remember your entire life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is it about Europe and the attention being paid to foosball as a sport? What's so different about Europe from America, in your guesstimation?
I don't know. So some countries have got foosball recognised as an official sport. Mm-hmm. Some haven't. Personally, I'm not that fussed one way or the other. I know that there are. If you were to get into the Olympics, which is one of the goals of the ITSF,
yes,
that would bring lots of attention and so on. But you look at, there are plenty of other sports that aren't in the Olympics that also get lots of attention. So, and I love the ITSF World Cup. It's a fantastic event, and it's everyone there. So there's the juniors, the seniors, the women, the men, the team, the singles, the doubles, everything. And it wouldn't be like that in an Olympics. I think it's great the way you've got it. And that doesn't mean I'm against it being in the Olympics. I just really like it the way it is. Sure. And I also like the multi-table aspect of it. I know people say about having the one type of table, having a standard table, but the tables play quite differently, and I think it adds a bit of something to it that to try and play on the different types of table. I really like it the way it is personally.
Sure. Do you when you play in your local pubs and taverns, do you use the Swiss system or is it double elimination?
Well, they don't use the Swiss system that much. In London, we've got a few people that put on some local tournaments, and sometimes it's they have a qualification round that might be random drawn, or it might be Swiss.
Okay.
And after that, that's used to decide the seedings for the elimination. So some people will get through to the elimination, some won't.
Mm-hmm.
But in a lot of tournaments, we have been using double elimination as well.
Oh.
So we use double elimination, and when I restarted in 1999, it was all double elimination done on hand paper charts, so no computers or anything then. But right. These days, we play to different things depending on what the organizer wants to do, basically. So.
Let me piggyback on that a little bit. Generally, in the local tournaments around the world, even I think for the most part, you will find double elimination at your local DYP, the weekly, the monthly, whatever. But you had a chance of going to the World Cup, competing for Team GB, to play the Swiss system, where you know who you're going to play, you know where you're going to play, you know when you're going to play, you know you're going to get a lunch break and a dinner break, you know when everything's going to happen, you know when that semifinal in the finals area is going to take place in men's doubles, men's singles, women's doubles, women's singles, whatever. You know, you can get your seat to go watch that at a certain time. There are so many strengths to that Swiss system. Your experience with it, as someone who has played both double elimination and then the Swiss system internationally, what are your thoughts on the Swiss in particular?
Well, I also used to play chess and played Swiss tournaments in chess a lot as well.
Cool.
So I'm very familiar with the Swiss system, and I like it. But the other thing I like is being able to enter more than one category. So myself and Dave Zeman, we booked our hotel room to go to Vegas last year before the coronavirus came along, and one of the attractions for us was we'd be able to enter the senior, the open, and expert, or whatever it is, and you can. There's nothing to stop you having Swiss system that allows you to enter more than one event, but generally speaking, the way it seems to be done, at least in Europe, is you choose your event and then they have Swiss elimination for that, which is okay. But imagine someone from here traveling to the United States, and if it was Swiss and you only entered one event, that's a lot of money for the airfare and everything like that. And it's the same for Americans coming over to Europe. So I like the idea of being able to allow people to enter multiple events if possible, so that they can get their money's worth out of the trip.
Jim, can't that be figured out? I'll ask you both. Can't that be figured out where you have Swiss for 3 different events, or
there's a hybrid?
Or you have an open event, and the people that don't qualify in the Swiss for the open get entered into the expert. There's got to be some creative.
Well, there's chance opportunities, and when you look at what they've been doing lately at World Cup and World Championship or World Series events, they'll have the rollerball doubles, they'll have the classic doubles. There are other opportunities to play. And also, I think you can kind of have a hybrid where you do offer other second chance events or specialty events for players who aren't playing.
Or also,
what you're trying to avoid, you don't want conflicts, right? You don't want conflicts. But yet you still want to play. You want to play a lot.
Yeah, so I would say keep the open events for the weekend, and on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, that's when you have your senior events, your junior events, and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that would be the hybrid kind of setup. Yeah. So, there's an answer. There's an answer that really brings us the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So in Britain, when you play, what is it like? Is it like here in this country? Is it like a tennis match, or are people hooping it up, having a good time?
No, it's like it's usually more like a tennis match. Sometimes people hooping it up.
Not like a football game
when they really shouldn't be.
Is it like a funeral, like it is over here? Is it like a Catholic church wedding, or like a day of mourning?
I don't know. We get kind of excited at our funerals.
Well, the thing is, I was thinking about what you were saying before, Mark. So imagine you've got the ball set up on your 3-bar. You're ready to pull the trigger on your fantastic pull shot. When all of a sudden, as you're in the process of doing that, just as you're taking off, there's a huge roar from the crowd, and the reason is they're not watching your game. They're watching the table next to you, where Jim Stevens has just smoked a push kick against Tony Strederman, and that's why they started to cheer.
That's a fake stat. Good grief, that's the fakest stat we've had in a while.
It's put you off your stroke, and you wouldn't like it. Now, if there's only one game going on, then in between the balls, obviously cheering is great. But when there's multiple games going on, I think that's why people keep quiet.
Listen, man,
they don't want to disturb the other matches.
I don't care about the other matches. I grew up playing Little League baseball. They would have 4 baseball diamonds all back to back to back to back.
Yes.
And I had the same scenario where I'm in the batter's box. This pitcher's throwing a ball at me as hard as he can. His entire team is yelling at me. Half of his parents are yelling at me. And then there's some home run on the other field. Yeah. And I survived. You learn to deal with it.
If it was constantly noisy, that's fine.
Yes, it should be.
If it's often quiet and then there's a bit of noise that's going to disturb someone else, then that's off-putting.
I think in either scenario. So I can't tell you like wrestling tournaments, which I did in high school. There's 8 matches going on at the same time and people screaming. Basketball leagues where there's 2 courts simultaneously going side by side. You get to shoot 3-pointers with people yelling on the other side. So I think that it's just to put a bow on this. I don't care. Like, there should be constant noise all the time. And if there isn't constant noise all the time, there's something wrong. Yeah. There should be. You should be hearing loud noises and banging and screaming and fire alarms and
cheering for your team.
Ambulances. Yeah. It should be constant noise. All the time.
Alfredo setting it up in pull shot position. Mark Torres screams at him. Alfredo sprays it into the wall.
Suddenly, Mark Torres comes sprinting across the table naked.
Yeah, why not? What's the problem? There's no problem there. Like, zero problem. It's
if someone's focus is so fragile that a noise throws them off their game, I don't want them to play foosball. I want them to go play chess.
Most people play in a bar most of the time where there's probably a jukebox playing loud and that sort of thing. So the noise per se isn't the problem. I think it's more a question of if it's constant or if it's intermittent.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If it's the normal atmosphere. Yeah.
Everybody's been in a game in a serious moment where the waitress walked up with the tray full of beers and she didn't know that you're supposed to wait. And like nobody cares. You just play through it. Like, you live. You'll survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in things like tennis, for example, they don't start shouting whilst the ball's in play. They clap.
They also wear dresses when they play.
And they, you know what they do? They grunt. And
yes, they do grunt. Yeah. I don't mind grunting.
Skirts and grunting, the future of foosball.
Grunting happens more in the senior events, it seems, than in open. Oftentimes,
that's not Jim. That's not grunting. That's not grunting.
You're probably right.
This is making me nervous. Where is this going? Where is it going?
You want distraction?
You heard our top 5 lists earlier on. Top 5 international players to make an impact on the American tour. And a couple of those my list came out of your home country there.
Which is why I have to award it to you, Jim, because you included my mate Joe.
Yes,
that's fair.
Totally fair.
But what did you think? What would your, and I know you're a foosball fan, and so what would your thoughts on that as far as international players? I know you have a pretty good awareness of international table soccer.
Yeah, I don't really know though who from Europe goes to the US.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember back because I started playing again in 1999, but I stopped in 2006, straight after the Hamburg World Cup.
Yeah.
Because I had an injury with my finger that stopped me from playing. So I didn't know what was going on for 11 years there. But yes, so I don't really know who's been over to the US.
Let's keep it in your country then. Let's keep it in the United Kingdom.
Right.
Now, so we know the greatest British player of all time is Robert Atha. All right, no problem there. We know that. In my opinion, I think because of things that have happened, I think I've got Joe Hamilton as the number 2 best male player, certainly best player to ever come out of Great Britain. Who, in your opinion, this is important now, who, in your opinion, would be number 3 on that list?
Well, first of all, I don't know if Joe Hamilton is number 2. He might be, but I wasn't playing in the period when he was when he became better. I was there when he made his breakthrough tournament in the UK, but that was just before the Hamburg World Championships.
Yeah.
But these days, Steve Lyle, Callum Oakes, are both very good players. Rich Marsh is a very good player, but Steve, Callum. Oh, there was someone called Sanjay, who you probably don't know, but we had a big tournament in the UK once. Well, when I say big, I can't remember if it was £10,000 or £20,000 was the prize money. But Frederick and a lot of Europeans came over, and Sanjay beats Jamal in the singles and some other good Europeans. So he was a very good player.
Last name?
Sanjay Kumar.
Okay.
I think it was Kumar. Yeah. So he was a very good player. Judge, who's now in the States, he was a very good player. It's very hard to mark who's better than who, but those have been very good players. And from I just want to take you back to the 70s when the best player back then was a chap called Jen Panchal on the Brighouse tables. He was the chap who taught me how to play, and he won the national championships 5 times, twice in singles and 3 times in doubles.
So he's number 2. So we have him at number 2, dropping Hamilton down to 3,
I don't know.
and Steve Lyle to 4.
Yeah, so I don't know. Between Callan, Steve Lyle, Judge, and Sanjay, probably.
Yeah, we're talking with Rhys Roberts, who's in his home at about 3 a.m. in North London, and appreciate him joining us. And always good to get the international perspective. And I think we're going to have to do this more often, guys, is really focus in on the international game. And the problem with that, though, is that in order to get an international guest, they're going to be up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Well, Rhys, because you've gone the extraordinary extra step to be with us, we greatly appreciate it. And we've created a special feature for you because you're the first person from the UK to appear on FoosTalk live that is. So let's do this. We're gonna take some time out from our foosball talk and play this game.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents How British Are You?
I beg your pardon.
Okay, so Rhys, here we go. This the rules are simple.
Here's the host of our game, Tom Robinson.
We're going to ask you 5 questions to see how British you actually are. So, first of all, there's no penalties. There's no necessarily any. I guess you guess. Let's put it this way: if you miss 1 out of 5, then we question your nationality.
Boy, that's pressure.
That is
pressure.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
Okay. Well, the very first one, I want you to listen to this clip, and I'll ask you the question.
Good Lord.
I know this answer.
Okay. No, don't you? Don't tell him. Don't tell him. Okay, Rhys.
Yeah,
so
the Avengers.
The Avengers. Very nicely.
Nice,
Okay, and
nice.
who is the star of the Avengers, or who are the stars, shall we say?
Well, Patrick McNee.
Yes,
was
you got it.
The male lead, but there were I can't remember the actress's name. Emma Peel was the name of the character.
Right. She recently passed away.
Linda Thornton.
Yes, that was later. That was later.
Something like that. Yes, she was another one.
So
I really should remember the name of Emma Peel, the actress.
She was in Game of Thrones.
She died not long ago, and she was in Game of Thrones. I never watched Game of Thrones.
You never watched Game of Thrones?
Diana Rigg, yes, Dame Diana
Rigg. There you go, Dame Diana Rigg. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, I'll give you that one.
Phew.
All right. So,
that's one.
Okay, here's the next one. Listen to this carefully. Okay, so
I just want to drop some acid. Go ahead.
What is the name of the TV show that theme comes from? The name of the TV show.
Well, I recognise the music, but I'm not sure. It might be Hawaii Five-0.
Oh no! That's American. Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, I know.
Can I answer? Yes, I might be wrong, but if he doesn't get it, I think
I'll play it again. How about that? I'll play it one more time.
Yeah, play it again.
Yeah, play one more time.
Go on then.
Here we go.
The Prisoner.
There you go. You got The Prisoner.
The Prisoner.
And who's the lead actor in that role?
The lead actor, Patrick McGowan.
Patrick McGowan, right. No,
Good job.
That one was
number 6.
Yep, they aired that on ABC in America, probably the year after it aired in Great Britain. But yeah, I loved that show as a kid. That was awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another clip, and I want you to see if you can identify what's going on here.
Clarkson, you infantile pillock.
So, play it one more time for you.
Sorry? Yes,
Clarkson,
please.
you infantile pillock.
I didn't catch the word before he said infantile pillock.
Okay, here we go.
Clarkson, you infantile pillock.
What the hell language is that?
I don't know what that's. Who's? One more time.
One more time. Here we go.
Clarkson, you infantile pillock.
I've got one of my ex doubles partners, table football doubles partner, is sending me the answer.
Oh, no kidding.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, he is a phone a friend. That's right.
Okay, all right.
Jeremy Clarkson, because he does Who Wants to Be a Millionaire over here now, and so yes, he does ask, "Do you want to phone a friend?"
So, what is the answer? Who is that? Who's saying that? And
it was Clarkson.
So we know that it's directed at Clarkson, but who is saying the line?
Oh. Well, it must be either pillock. I'm guessing I don't know if it's James May or the other one who's
James May. Yeah, you got it. James May.
You're right.
By the way,
you're still British. You're still British.
Oh, yeah, so far. So okay. So now, what does that show come from? Where is that?
Top Gear.
Top Gear. Thank you. Okay.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
You're currently on the Grand Tour. Now I need to ask this question.
Grind my head in a pillock.
Yeah, right. What is a pillock? What is a pillock?
An idiot or something like that.
A what?
Idiot.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. You
Okay.
pillock. Yeah. Or something like that.
All right. I think he's 3 for 3 so far.
Yeah.
Well, okay, not bad. Well, okay, the next one, there's no sound, but it is a question. So what is the difference between a cookie and a biscuit?
What's a cookie?
What's the difference between a cookie and a between a cookie and a
cookie
biscuit?
is something on your computer, and a biscuit is something you eat.
Ooh,
exactly
right. Good. Yeah, I like it.
Wow.
Anybody ask what Rhys
You
is
are
drinking
absolutely
tonight?
British.
Oh
my God.
A chip and a crisp. How about that?
Man. Okay.
You're a
so so one more question, and you don't necessarily have to answer this one, but it's a big one. This is for all the marbles right here. What is a wanker?
Be specific.
What is the term?
Well, you would use the term to describe somebody who's not very good at something.
Oh, okay. Like somebody who's not very good at foosball?
Or maybe somebody you don't like.
Got it. Derogatory term.
Dude, I got the bonus round. I got the bonus round right now. I'm gonna give you the first 3 British names that come to my head, and you got to name one that you'll marry, sleep with, and kill.
Oh,
okay.
Oh,
ready?
Oh,
first 3 Brits that come to my head: Margaret Thatcher, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Tom Cruise. Go.
Well, I'm killing Margaret Thatcher.
Okay. Arnold and Tom Cruise.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about either of those, to be honest.
I'm sure.
I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
Can I answer that question?
Tough choice. Please, hell, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take Arnold Schwarzenegger for all 3 and just.
Yeah. So a real man.
No idea that Arnold was British. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, the accent does sound.
I told you the first 3 names that came into my head.
Oh man, the things you learn on this show, I gotta say,
that's the one British person he knows. Margaret
It is
Thatcher.
amazing.
And by the way, next week on FoosTalk Live, how Coloradoan are you with Mike Bowers?
I love
It's gonna work.
I couldn't resist. Favorite Beatles song? Just wanted to know that for my own sake.
What my favourite Beatles song? I don't know. I like
Champagne Supernova.
Too many.
Champagne Supernova.
No, not that one.
I'm a side 2 of Abbey Road guy.
Oh,
that's my favorite.
Well, I like the Sgt. Pepper album very much.
Yes.
I used to listen to that a lot when I was studying.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Rubber Soul, really underrated. Rubber Soul.
Rubber Soul and Revolver could have been one album.
Yeah, that's true.
We could talk about that all day. But anyway, we're talking about foosball. So
barely.
No, I want to talk music. Why are pretty much the 3 greatest rock bands of all time from Great Britain? And I'm talking about the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd. Why are those the greatest?
Oh, you left the Who out.
Or the Stones.
Rolling Stones?
No, that's what I mean. We could go 5 deep here, right? With the Stones and Who. Why are the British bands the best ever?
Led Zeppelin?
I listen to. I don't listen to a lot of any one in particular, but I like very much "Wish You Were Here" and "Money," and also the Beatles. I didn't listen to much Led Zeppelin, to be honest.
No Led Zeppelin.
Wow, you're off. Someone mute him.
There goes. So no, I'm a Floyd guy myself. Love
Pink
Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
Just brilliant. Wish You Were Here. I could listen to that all day, every day.
Yep.
Yeah,
no question.
And I often do.
Cashmere.
Cashmere.
Da-da-da. You know,
the greatest record, Physical Graffiti. The whole album, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Ozzy Osbourne. Come on.
Ozzy.
Iron Man.
I know the list goes on.
Yeah, all the great bands are from Brit. Whatever you guys are from. The island.
So
I have a theory.
And there's your geography lesson on.
I'm going to try to guide this thing back to foosball. Pre-COVID, were you playing locally there? Were you playing the London scene, so to speak? And London always has a scene, don't they? No matter what it is. But were you out playing a couple times a week against the local players there? And I know Garlando's a big table there, a little bit of Bonzini, and then Tornado as well. But talk a little bit about what you were doing pre-COVID when we could actually get out and play foosball. I
was playing closer to 7 times a week, or at least 5 times a week anyway. So there were a couple of bars in particular I'd go to. I'd go to Cafe Kick, to play on their Bonzini. I'd practice there, and then later on in the evening, I'd either stay there or go on to Bar Kick or 1920 Bar, because there's not many places in London with tables. There's about 5 or 6 that I would regularly go to, and one of them has got 4 tables. That's in a snooker club where the Anglia Grove Snooker Club, where they've got 4 different tables. I think now they got a Garlando, Tornado, Ulrich, and a Leonhardt.
Wow, that is
and
cool.
Very cool.
Then there's a Tornado, 2 Tornadoes in a bar. It's a pool bar really, but they got 2 Tornadoes there. The 1920 bar. Bar Kick and Cafe Kick have both got Bonzini, and then I would go to Matchbox where they got a Leonhardt. So you could find me in any one of those places. Sometimes I would tell other people that I'm there and ask people if they want to come along, and sometimes I'd go there just to practice. And although I practice at home, if I want to practice my 5 bar, then I'm probably going to go out somewhere to practice, because at home I'll end up playing the 3 bar, whereas if I go out, because you have to put money in, if I'm just playing on the 5 bar, then it doesn't matter, does it? I can just stay there and practice on it until other people turn up, obviously, in which case we'll play a game, or I'll let them have the table.
No, that's a great practice tool and a money saver at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a quick question for you. When you travel internationally, do you have a problem when you cross the street of looking to the left instead of the right? I know when I came over to Great Britain, and I love it there. I love the country. I did a tournament up in Manchester, spent some time over in Bristol, and really enjoyed the country, really enjoyed the people. But it was, when I crossed the street, I'd look left, and meanwhile that car is coming from the right, and it was a little scary.
Really have to slow down when you reach the curb, don't you? And take your time, be careful. I get that all the time. Because we're the odd ones out.
So Rhys, we have a question for you. When it comes to your career in foosball, well, since 1999, since you've returned, what's the most outrageous situation you've been in? What's the most intense match, or what's the most outrageous thing you've seen on the table?
Oh, I don't want to say what the most outrageous thing I've seen on the table
That's
is.
the story we need to hear then, right there. Let's go.
No, well, it's when players spit at each other.
Exchanging bodily
so
fluids.
I'm not going to name any names, but but we don't need that, do we?
What are they playing? Is that like is there like camels playing foosball, or what?
If that's what you want to think.
It's 1 degree away from feces throwing. I was tired.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So things like that. So but in the 60s, I saw a football table being used as a weapon between 2 people who were having an argument. And I also saw some people stealing a table football from the university bar, carrying it down the road until they got stopped by one of the university security guards.
Seriously, they're carrying it away.
I guarantee you they were not sober.
Right?
No, they weren't. No.
Man, just pick it up and carry it out. There you go. That's great.
But yeah.
So who's your favorite player of all time?
Oh, well,
regardless of nationality.
Well, that's right. I mean, the 2 players, when you say that, I'm trying to decide between Frederick and Rob Atha. I mean, Frederick is obviously the greatest player. He's fantastic. But I've known Rob since he was 11 or 12.
Really?
So I have beaten Rob Atha. He was 11 at the time.
When he was 11?
It was close.
So I really hope, when you were talking about earlier in your top 5 and Rob Atha, and like you say, he hasn't won the Tornado Worlds, and I really hope he manages to do that one day. And also the ITSF singles, World Championship singles, I'd like him to win.
Yeah, I recall last 2019 in Spain when we saw that he was going to be facing Juan Hermans, who really had not made a mark. We thought, well, Rob Atha's going into this match as a huge favorite, and then just got outplayed by a red hot player, and we all felt it. We all felt Rob's pain because we know how much it means to him. Of course, he and Joe Hamilton won the doubles title back in 2009. But Rob wants that singles championship, and he really wants a Tornado World Championship as well. But,
I hope
you mentioned you knew him since he was 11. Of course, I know you know Boris Atha, his father. Rob, a second-generation player, and of course Boris, a long-time a foosball man there in Great Britain. What are your thoughts about Boris, who really goes back quite a ways and has been so influential to so many people there in your country?
Well, Boris has been a member of the equivalent of the USTSO over here, the BFA, the British Foosball Association. So he's been a member of the on the committee of the British Foosball Association, as far as I'm aware, non-stop since about 2002 or something like that. I was the chairman of the British Foosball Association for 1 year. Boris was there as well, and Boris has stayed with it ever since, whereas I gave it up after a while.
Does the BFA have a club system?
There are clubs, and they also have a club championship sometimes, some years, but it hasn't been held every year. Some of the clubs, I would say, are genuine clubs in so much as they meet up in one place and so on. But in London, there's a few clubs, but they sort of go around all the different places. It's more like a collection of people rather than a club, if you do what I mean. So so we call ourselves a club just so that you can have a club competition.
Right. Okay.
So but we meet each other, and there's no club rivalry from that point of view. Or I don't think there is. Maybe some of the others do, but.
So do you think that eventually there might be, if there was a big enough player base to do, a town to town, sort of like Manchester United versus?
Well, I think. Well, we meet up when we hold the British Championships. Then they held the club championship at the same time. So at the last one, anyway. So that's what they tend to do. So you wouldn't travel. It's not like your professional footballers who are getting paid a fortune to travel up and down the country. So we don't travel that much to other parts of the country unless there's a tournament going on there.
If there were more, shall we say, remuneration involved, would you think there'd be a bigger interest?
But even then, you could, unless people are going to be professional, it's hard to envisage how that would happen, except on weekends, really.
Sure.
If there was enough money to cover it, then yes, but I can't see that happening at the moment.
Rhys, I'm gonna keep going, and I'll ask my question.
I think that I know that you've been talking about changes to the rules and so on to get more viewer participation and so on. Personally, I think to get more viewer participation, you just need more people to play the game. When you look at other sports such as football, just about everyone's played football, so everyone understands it, so they watch football. When I say football, I mean soccer.
Right.
So everyone watches it, and so they all know how to play. Almost everybody has played football to some degree or other during their life, so they know what it's all about. They watch it, and they've got an allegiance to the team, which means that there's money there. But in table football, I think that we really need to get more. It's a family game as well, so you can have families can buy tables, and schools can get the tables. I've got that scheme in America, but at the moment we haven't got anything like that here. But I know that the BFA are trying to think about ways to develop that sort of thing over here as well.
So, Rhys, I'm gonna start a question that I ask every week. I'm gonna start it with you, and it's funny. It's absolutely relevant to what you just said. I disagree with you respectfully. We have seen in the United States that it doesn't matter how many competitors there are. It doesn't matter. What ends up being static or not growing are the spectators. And it seems to be true because we are in direct contact and hear the same thing from the ITSF. The interest is not in growing the competitor base. It's in growing the spectator base. And so let's just focus on that. Right. Let's just respectfully agree to disagree on that. If my question, and I'll start it with you, let's ignore growing the competitive base. How do you grow the spectator base? How do you grow people watching the sport? And you hear me talking about this thing on Facebook. It's one small thing of a broad set of things I'm actually interested and focused on and supporting the conversation on. So, but what if your only focus was to grow the spectator base? Rules are one thing. What else would you do to get more people watching foosball without an interest if they ever actually competed?
Probably big prize money
for spectators.
If there was big prize money and they see two people playing a game of table football for $50,000, then people will probably watch it. Won't
Make a note, Mark. Make a note.
But in order to do that, you probably need sponsorship, which means I don't know. Getting enough people.
That seems to be the dirty word.
Not necessarily.
Maybe not.
Yeah, well, you could know. Well, you could have two people. You could have people believe they're playing for a lot of money.
Maybe if
you just gave it away, Mark. Dang, you just gave it away.
Maybe some company could be persuaded to put up big money to have Tony Spreaderman versus Frederick. Maybe that would have a big audience.
Well, I believe that the resources are there, truly, sincerely. I was joking around. There is money there to throw. There are people that want to put money in the hat to grow the sport, and so it'd be interesting to see what it takes to have a spectator base grow. I think the other thing that would be of interest in developing a spectator base is the spectacle. Not to be redundant with language, spectator, spectacle, but the growing. A lot of these professional events are events because of all the event itself happening around it. I used to go to MMA fights, professional cage fighting, UFC stuff, and there's a lot of people that don't care about cage fighting. They care about all what's happening around it, all the engagement.
Which is great. Okay. For sure. And I'm still trying to get over the fact that soccer is called football in other countries. But that's a great point, though, that we can make the environment a little bit different, a little bit more fun. Mark likes to preach that you want to scream at your opponent right as he's trying to shoot the ball or something like that. There are ways that we can increase the spectator experience, both through the televised side of it and the in-person on-site side of it. And I think those two things are very important in getting more people to know about foosball, getting more people to play foosball. And I think those things are sort of results of this kind of approach.
Jim, did you walk across the room?
It's our tech guy saying, hey, closer to the microphone.
Test 1, 2.
It sounds like your input might have got changed.
But thanks for pointing that out.
There you go.
Cool.
Now you're back.
Yeah.
I don't listen to most of what goes on, but when I hear something change, that's my time to shine.
There he is.
No, I'm still here. I'm still right here. What Rhys, one last question from me is where I know we're winding things down here a little bit. Do you anticipate, we've talked tonight with our top fives and with our focus on international table soccer and its and how effective international players have been here in this country. Do you have plans in the future once things get back to quote unquote normal? Do you have plans to once again travel to the United States to compete?
Yeah, personally, I do. I like I said, I booked my hotel room to go to Vegas last year, but it got cancelled. Right. And I wanted to go to all the World Championships. I wanted to go to the Bonzini, Leonhardt, Roberto Sport, Garlando, Tornado World Championships, and the Hall of Fame as well is what was in my mind. Whether or not I would have actually done it, I don't know. But that was my plan, a loose plan, if you like. So that's what I really wanted to do. Because you know, I when I stopped playing table football in 2006, started again in 2017, and the reason was my father and brother had passed away, and I was thinking to myself, well, you only live once, so you may as well go and get back to table football, because I was missing it much and wanted to have fun. So I was going to go to as many tournaments as I could, really.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And it does re-energize one to get in there and compete. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So Rhys, what if we came over? Would you put us up in your house?
Well, I might put you up in my food shed.
I'll stay for those 4 tables.
Yeah, that's right. I'll put you up in my food shed.
Rhys,
he's got a regular training center there.
Rhys, can you make us pancakes in the morning, Rhys?
I'm afraid I'm not much of a cook.
I want a traditional
English
breakfast. I want that traditional English breakfast,
Yes.
which I really grew to like.
Sheep balls with gravy. What does it look like, Jim?
No, it's awesome.
My wife can make a very nice breakfast.
Oh, I love it.
Bangers and rashers.
You can ask Atha Senior and Atha Junior. They stayed here one night on their way to a European tournament.
Nice. We'll be there soon. I promise you, we will be in England to cover an event.
We'll call it the London Foos Hostel. That would be that's the place to go. The Foos Hostel at Rhys's place. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll do a pub crawl across London. And
now you're talking.
Broadcast
a table football pub.
Yeah,
yeah,
right, exactly.
Go to all the table football pubs. That's right.
Yep.
So I gotta ask, Rhys. You played 7 times a week at bars. You like to party a little bit, man? You want to
No, I'm not. I don't drink alcohol, so I just go there for the table football.
Our friendship just ended somehow. You didn't even have a chance to start.
I guessed it, mate.
With alcohol, without alcohol, it sounds like Rhys would be a fun dude to hang out with no matter what.
Yeah.
So I'm hanging with you, Rhys, when you come. And we will be coming. I promise. We'll be there.
And you're
that guy, Rhys.
You can leave Mark behind.
We're singing karaoke in a British pub, man. We're on.
Oh man,
that sounds
like guy Rhys is here. He's ordering a water.
That's all right, man. He's still having a good time.
Oh yeah.
You'll be doing
speaking of good times, it's been a really good time tonight hanging out with you.
Absolutely.
A chance to catch up on a little British table football, which I love, and I've always called it table soccer. I had no idea. But great hanging out with you, Rhys, and we will see you somewhere down the line, and we'll have a cup of water with you, or a seltzer or whatever. Right. And Inside Foods, maybe you can look at us in the next few years with the possibility of visiting your great country as well.
Yeah,
great,
absolutely.
Thanks very much.
So Rhys, it's an absolute pleasure having you join us, and thanks for playing the game. Are you British enough? And it turns out you are.
Yes, he's British.
Yep. Appreciate
British
it.
enough.
Okay.
Enough.
I think you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rhys. Man, go to bed, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, then.
Rhys,
right,
then.
keep listening.
Yeah.
See you, bud.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Wow.
How do I get out of this?
Gracefully.
I ask myself that every single week.
Do what everybody else does and just pretend like you got out because you don't know how to exit it.
Very
now he's going to go
slowly.
sit down and go to the bathroom.
That's great.
That is the best ending ever. How do I get out of this? Oh my God, dude.
What did you get me into?
That was gold.
That was great stuff. He sounds like a really fun dude to hang out with. 7 nights a week, apparently, visiting the British pubs. You got to love that. He is a true foosball fan.
Four
true
tables?
Foosball.
4 tables at home?
And the key thing he said, you only live once, right?
Yep.
Life is short. You got to
it.
appreciate it.
For those who missed it, he's a super fan. And he's on the show because he's a stalwart advocate in here and promotes our show and listens every week to every minute, stays up late. And I think it's amazing to have him on and chat about his foosball history.
Terrific.
For sure.
Really terrific.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, if you can prove that you've listened to all 44 episodes of FoosTalk Live, you too can come on the show.
And ask yourself, how do I get out of here?
Yeah, how do I get out of here?
What have I got myself
Philosophically
into?
speaking, how do I get out of this again?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun.
I mean, Jim can't even say that he's listened to all 44 episodes.
I was there live for all 44 of them.
Yeah, but the ones that you weren't, I know. I know the Jim Stevens
I
rule.
listened to every minute of it.
And
Last
not
week's
all
episode,
44.
I listened to it and I couldn't stop laughing for the first 15 minutes.
You know, we've given you a few nights off here, Jim. So you got to admit that. Not all 44. Yeah. So, but anyway.
No, that's true. But I do try to listen. And speaking of 45, 46, and 47, we've got some great shows coming up, folks. This was a lot of fun tonight, and we're going to be visited by 3 Hall of Famers in the next 3 weeks. So we can look forward to some foosball fireworks there as well.
Mike Bowers, Dave Corrington, and Tony Bacon all coming up here at FoosTalk Live. A coup, to say the least. A triple threat, if you will. So, guys, any parting shots? Jim?
Oh, you know, again, tonight with our guest, these guys that we're talking to these days, as we reflect back on the history of the sport and through the lens of a local player in London or whoever, through Hall of Famers, whatever else. It's just so awesome. These guys have stories to tell. They love to talk. They love to reflect back and remember. You could hear the smile on his face when he talked about, you know, what happened in Murcia or other events in his foosball career. So it's just been a great pleasure for me to be involved with something that really allows the community to embrace the history of the sport. And that's, you know, I feel very proud that the 4 of us are bringing that to the foosball community.
That's great. Mark?
Parting shot. Yeah, great time. I drank coffee tonight. Clay kept it all together. Rhys was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to have a super fan on the show. Hope we do more of those in the future. I won the top 5. I've seen the chat. Well, because that was nepotism, if you want to call it that, because of the whole UK thing, wherever these guys are from. And that's my parting shot. Clay, take your parting shot, brother. What do you got?
I'm just mostly proud of how ignorant our European geography is, and how we just don't say the right words. And I don't know. To be honest, I feel like I'm supposed to close in a word of prayer. Just childhood habits coming up right now. So if you bow your heads and pray, how do I get out of here? Jesus.
That whole United Kingdom thing is like it needs a Venn diagram that separates the weirdness of the whole thing, like the British Isles versus Scotland and wherever
it's
Republic
complex.
Ireland is.
There's a lot of politics there too.
The empire.
And who could forget about Brexit? I mean, all this stuff is, you know,
I'll tell you who can forget about it. Literally everybody who's not there.
Where the hell is the Commonwealth?
2 things we didn't touch on tonight with him. We didn't touch on Brexit, and we didn't touch on Monty Python. What is wrong with us?
I know.
Or Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap.
That's the real greatest thing that ever came out of there.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
But Peppa Pig.
Generally speaking, as a people, are there funnier people on earth than the Brits?
True that.
Are there?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Have you ever been to
the funniest and the best rockers?
Yep.
Chris Dewey would say midgets, but
maybe.
That's a low blow, Mark.
It's inappropriate. I've had up to here with you.
You really know how to fill a show.
That's a great radio joke right there.
How do I get out of here? How do I get
out of here?
Well, it's easy.
I'm going to go back and clip that because that was actually hilarious.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, it'll be coming up on a best of behind the scenes fourth wall episode sometime in the very near future. You just have to listen in. It is FoosTalk Live. We've been here, of course, with Rhys Roberts from Great Britain, from London, England. An absolute pleasure having Rhys on. And stay tuned because next week, Mike Bowers joins us right here.
Get your questions ready, folks, for the godfather of foosball.
It's going to be great. So be here with us. Another Sunday evening is about to happen with the 45th episode. But thanks for tuning in for the 44th FoosTalk Live. FoosTalk Live is a product of Foosball Radio and Inside Foos TV. All rights reserved. Our sincere thanks to 518 Prince, Foosball Clubs USA, Foosballers the Movie, and the United States Table Soccer Organization. Join us next Sunday for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foozin'.